way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotti, come subscribe, come subscribe, come subscribe, come subscribe.
No way.
Red Hot Gotti. Alright, so today I am talking about Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2. Now today, the marathon is over, and I was going to make a video actually on the 15th, but I got caught up on some other stuff, so today I'm going to be making it, and today I'm going to be talking about specifically just all the things that I wanted to talk about in terms of the fight, the choreography, the visuals, the plot itself, and all the characters. Now let's just get into it. Now, although I do think this season has some of the highest highs, I also think that it has some of the lowest lows in terms of plot and character. And some of the characters are, sold short in terms of like their development and characterization. I feel like a lot of it is lazy writing. And overall, I don't like how this season is, taking the direction of like certain characters. And it's mainly because of, the fighting and like the different scaling of certain characters where they have to be in order for the plot to progress. And I really don't like how this power scaling in this season is, because it fundamentally breaks other seasons. But not only that, it makes the characters a lot less interesting. Now, when it comes to Miguel's arc, I would say fundamentally I do like a lot of the stuff they do with his character, but at the end of the day, I feel like his character is like 50-50, because I do like that he's actually carrying Miyagi-Do, and it shows just how powerful Miguel is compared to other characters in terms of scaling, how much he's trained over the years, and how skilled he is compared to other characters, even especially Robby when he's not focused. Like, it just shows like the reason that Miguel has always been number one is he's been locked in. Like, he always tries his hardest. He is one of the most skilled people in the dojo usually, and he actually, like, he has that dog in him. Like, he actually cares about winning. He's locked in compared to the other characters. Now the thing is, I do like that they sort of focus on Miguel not being number one and him having to focus on the fact that, even though he is competing and he's going to be one of the top students, he can't be number one. That's Robby, and he wasn't picked as captain because obviously he lost, and he has to deal with the fact that in this season he feels like that or in this part I should say, he feels like he should have been chosen. And he feels like him losing was actually a cop-out, and at the end of the day, he actually cares more about winning more than anyone else, especially Robby, who is captain, and he has to kind of snap out of that and actually help Robby be the leader that it was always meant to be. And that's basically the whole point of Miguel's arc in these 5 episodes, and I do really like that because it shows him actually trying to stick up for Robby rather than trying to fight him specifically, because he really is just frustrated with the fact that he isn't trying his hardest, and Miguel knows that, and he knows how powerful he can be because he's fought him before. And when it comes down to it, the other characters had no faith in Robby, but he did lock in after Miguel actually had to talk with him, and he made sure that Robby actually locked in this time, and he was able to defeat Kwon and defeat all these other people because he actually showed his true strength, and he wasn't focused on Tory all the time. He started to actually show that he is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, students in the Sekai Taikai to begin with. Now, to some extent, I'm not going to lie to myself, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I do kind of wish Miguel was actually the captain, only because Miguel is not only my favorite character, but the other characters also have faith in him, showing that how much of an influence Miguel has actually had on his friends, and almost you can call them family, honestly, at this point. It really is nice to see that after all these years, Miguel is the one that they want to represent them, and they truly, care for him, and they actually have stuck by him since season 1. And some of these characters are newer characters, like since season 4 and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, they stick by each other, and they're all trying to work hard for the same goal, to bring Miyagi-Do to the world and stuff like that. And I really do like that after everything Miguel has gone through, he's at the point where he can actually fight for that and help his friends, basically his family, bring Miyagi-Do to the world. And obviously that took a little bit of a turn in the end of part 2, and who knows what's going to happen in part 3, but I just like the bond that all these characters have. I think it's just really well represented, and I think all the cast members have a lot of just really good chemistry, and I love the show. I just love how they just characterize these really good people, just trying to do the right thing. The one thing I will say about Miguel is I don't like some of the attitude that he was giving towards Johnny in the beginning, especially when they got on the plane. I feel like it was kind of, out of place, and some of the dialogue kind of really made him look like a douchebag. But I do kind of understand his perspective, especially when it comes to, the fact that he was ignored by Johnny, and also the fact even when he was talking to Robby, I did kind of get a weird vibe from Miguel. He was kind of annoying me, but he was low-key carrying Miyagi though the entire season, or at least the first half of part 2. So like some of the things that he says and like how he says them, it does irritate me, but I understand his point of view. The one thing I really do not like about part 2 when it comes to Miguel's arc is the whole Axel and Sam thing. Like that whole love triangle, I'm gonna make a whole video about that, so I don't want to touch on that too much. But honestly, I feel like Axel's a really bad character. I feel like he was mishandled, and I feel like the whole love triangle was just honestly terrible. And the same thing is with the Zara and Tory and Robby love triangle. That also irritates me, and I just hate how in this show sometimes they have to have a love triangle in order for the show to work, in order to have drama, in order to have something going on. And, you know, it was fine with Miguel, Robby, and Sam because I feel like the characters were fleshed out. They were the main characters, and they had multiple seasons to sort of flesh out that, you know, relationship, you know, between Miguel and Robby. You know, them actually, you know, having this beef between each other. Miguel and Sam ended up, you know, being in a relationship first, and then they broke up, and Robby and Sam got into a relationship, but it was never actually going to last because Sam never actually truly loved Robby, and, you know, then Miguel and Sam got back together, and, you know, all that other stuff. I'm fine with that, but with Axel and Sam, there was absolutely nothing other than like one conversation that they had, and then Axel tried to kiss her because he had like mixed signals, I guess. But at the end of the day, it really makes Axel look bad, the fact that he's sitting up here obsessed over Sam and making the whole situation awkward and just making himself look like a douchebag at the end of the day. Like he's an asshole, like he really is. But again, I don't want to get into it too much. All I have to say is I think him, especially him being like the strongest student in general in the entire like Sekateke, like strongest fighter, I really don't like that because he ends up beating up Miguel in the brawl fight at the end of episode 10, and even before that he's, you know, defeating Kwon, beating the hell out of him, he's beating the hell out of Robby, and it's just like he doesn't deserve to do that because he as a character is like he's not only not well written, but he is just not a good dude in general, and I don't really understand his perspective in a certain sense. Like, I understand him being abused, you know, by his sensei, the wolf guy, and I guess I really have to dive into that deeper in the next video, but all I have to say is Axel, not a great character. Sam, I'm glad that she didn't cheat, and I'm glad that, you know, she stuck by Miguel, which develops her, you know, she's definitely a lot stronger mentally than she was in the other seasons in that aspect, because, you know, season 2, you already know what happened. But yeah, I just don't like how she got in the middle of the whole Axel and Wolf situation, and that's what started the whole obsession. But that's more so Axel's fault than Sam, so I'll give her that. And then Miguel has to deal with this only because, well, he exists and he's Sam's boyfriend. It's like, it really isn't his fault for any of this, really, but it is what it is. And Miguel's still you know, one of the strongest characters in the series, and nothing's gonna change that. Like, honestly, Axel being characters, whatever. I do hope that Miguel ends up beating Axel, but again, I have to deal with that in another video, talking about the logical ramifications of, you know, that happening or not happening. But yeah, overall, Miguel, solid character still. When it comes to Robby, I really am 50-50 with Robby as well, because I do think that his fights are some of the best fights that are in the entire series, especially Robby versus Kwon. I think that is honestly probably top 3, not even top 5. It's top 3, honestly. It's a really good fight. Robby beats the hell out of Kwon. Like, I love that he just embarrasses him, and it just shows that Robby deserves to be captain. You know, him or Miguel, they are the main two that deserve the spot. But I do like how Robby just, you know, he finally proves himself as the, you know, the leader of Miyagi-Do, and he honestly fits that role really well when he's actually locked in. I sometimes don't like how the show, treats certain characters based on their motivations, if they're locked in or not locked in, if they're balanced or unbalanced. It does kind of irritate me sometimes with the power scaling, because power scaling in certain shows does actually exist and it is important. With this show, it's about fighting, so that is irritating to see certain characters, just be so weak out of nowhere just for the sake of, drama or whatever the hell. But I do understand it in this circumstance, because he is kind of torn with the fact that Tory is in Cobra Kai, and the fact that he has to fight against her, with the rivaling dojos, and the fact that he actually already tried to help Tory and help Cobra Kai. Like in season 5, he was trying to help her get out of it, and they broke up because of that. So I understand just how much struggle and pain that Robby's already going through with that, and the fact that he had to try to help Kenny in seasons 5 and 6. So I understand Robby completely with that. It just is kind of irritating seeing Miguel do so much better than him when they're supposed to be relative. They're supposed to be equals, to be honest. But I'm glad that he finally locked in, honestly, and his fights have been superb. At least in the last half, and in the entire series. Like, I loved Robby versus Hawk, and Miguel versus Robby, all the fights in general. So it's just Robby he's solid fight wise. I also do really like his rivalry with Kwon, and I think it's really well handled. I think Kwon is a douchebag, and I do really like how just antagonistic he is and how much he pushes the envelope with Robby, and the fact that he uses Tory in order to do that. Like, he really is manipulating Tory in a certain sense. Well, not really manipulating her, he's just like manipulating Robby with Tory, and using the fact that she joined Cobra Kai and sort of like gloating about that against him. And obviously Robby knows that he's a little bit frustrated with Tory in the beginning, and that's why they basically break up in like episode, I think it was 6. But at the end of the day, Robby knows that she does care about him. It's just, he's sort of frustrated, and Kwon is getting in his head, and that's why he ends up sleeping with Zara. Now, the whole Zara situation's a bit weird, because Zara does technically, they do something. I don't necessarily know what, but I could assume what. In, I think, her room or his room, and he is like drunk during that, so this is kind of like a weird situation. Like, he obviously does not like her, and I don't like how they portray that. It's a bit strange, but again, I'll get into the whole love triangle of Zara, Robby, and Tory in another video. It'll be completely separate. I just don't like her inclusion in that. I do like Kwon, though, and I do like, just in general how he looms over the entire show. Like, he antagonizes every single character, and he's just a menace in general. Like, I think he's a S tier character if I had to put him on a tier list or something, which I will make a tier list, honestly. So there's your first character. There's your first hint. I also do really like the kicking competition that they do, where Robby is basically challenged by Kwon, and they basically have the chalk where they have to do it. They basically have to see who can kick the highest with the chalk mark. And I do really like how Robby ends up betting their rooms, showing like he is trying to prove himself worthy of the title of captain, but he ends up failing because he's not locked in fully, like I said earlier, and he ends up losing to Kwon later on. Which is parallel to the next fight, where he ends up humiliating him. But at first, Kwon ends up humiliating Robby because, again, he's really getting in his head in the beginning of the season. I really do like that Kwon ends up winning the kicking competition, and he ends up taking the rooms, just showing like he has power over them right now, and he has power over Robby, and he's getting in his head. I do like in this season that they're actually showing that Miguel and Robby can actually support each other and fight together and fight as stronger people in general, and their development has been some of the greatest in the series, because in the previous seasons they've just been fighting each other, and it's mainly been because of misunderstandings. But I do like in this season that they're actually helping each other grow as people and becoming the strongest versions of themselves. I do genuinely like how they actually brought back Robby and Sam's friendship from season 1. Now, obviously, they had it a little bit in season 2, but they were basically a couple at that point. And that, honestly, was one of the weaker parts of season 2. Even though it is one of my favorite seasons, I don't like how they made that a thing, because I like Robby and Sam better as friends. And honestly, I think most people do. But at the end of the day, I really do like that not only did Sam care about Robby in this season, and she was actually trying to console him, trying to like talk to him about, you know, the whole situation with Tory, but she actually cares about Tory too, and she really cares about the fact that they actually were getting somewhere with the, you know, stopping the whole beef between the two. And she really wanted to be friends with Tory, and she still, you know, has hope that once Tory gets over the whole Cobra Kai situation, that maybe they actually might be able to make amends with each other. I do like in this season how Robby ends up drinking a lot, and he ends up sleeping with Zara, which is a mistake, and it kind of just shows like how, you know, drinking just runs in the family, honestly. And I really do like how it mirrors Johnny's arc, where Johnny in the beginning of the series was an alcoholic basically at this point, let's be honest, and he was the one who basically had his life, you know, turned upside down once he was never able to actually get over the 84 loss to Daniel, and he basically has just been an alcoholic, you know, loser, basically not really taking care of himself properly, and he was a slob as well. And you really get to see how he basically destroyed his life. He didn't show up for Robby at the hospital. It's just an asshole in general. And you know, you start to see that Robby's starting to follow in his father's footsteps, you know, with the drinking, when he's, you know, down in the dumps, when he's, you know, depressed and stuff like that. It just shows how human these characters are, but not only that, how similar Johnny and Robby are. Now, when it comes to Tory, I fundamentally am not really invested in Tory in this season. Now, I understand why she's doing what she's doing, and I already explained most of my, you know, thought process in the last video I made. If you haven't seen that, go watch it. It's basically explaining my whole thoughts on Tory in part 2. Now, when it comes to this season, I fundamentally think that, you know, she's obviously doing this out of, you know, emotion, and she did this because she feels like Miyagi-Do is not going to support her fully. Now, obviously, with Robby, he was going to talk her out of it, and that's why she didn't want to talk to him about, you know, this whole scenario. And when it comes to Sam, she obviously doesn't hate Sam, or she doesn't want to start beef with Sam again, but she, you know, sort of betrayed everyone, and that's what's kind of irritating, because, you know, Kreese doesn't deserve to have Tory on his team, given all the bullcrap that he put Miyagi-Do in general through. And if she really cares about these people, I feel like she should, you know, I feel like she shouldn't have joined Cobra Kai. Like, I understand she's doing this for her mom, but there's so many other avenues she could have gone through. You know, joining Cobra Kai, again, is really bad, and is a really stupid decision from Tory. But I understand, again, she has a connection to Kreese, and she feels like, you know, I could use that in order to just at least, because obviously she doesn't necessarily rock with Kreese in this season. She's more so doing this, again, not for him, not for Kwon or anyone else. She's doing this for herself. Like, she doesn't even like Kwon. Like, and you can see throughout the entire season that Kwon, the entire part, Kwon is just antagonizing not only her but Robby and Sam and just all the characters in general. So she obviously is just doing this solely for, I guess you could say, selfish reasons. But again, I'm not saying that in like a bad way to make her sound like some sort of like horrible person, because she does get revenue from the Sakateka in terms of like cash that she can use to like support herself. And I'm guessing her brother, if he's not like put like in foster care or something like that, if they both live in the same house, then yeah, she can support him, or at least support herself, and also be able to pay for her mother's funeral and stuff like that. So I understand like where she's coming from. It's just like, it's very irritating, given the fact that the main characters are trying to go against Cobra Kai, given just the evil nature of like Kreese's teachings, and you're supporting that guy. Like that whole mindset in general is just irritating. Like, he is a bad dude, and he is the main reason that all this conflict is happening, and you're on his team. What I really like about this season, specifically this part, is how Tory's actually explaining her thought process about certain things. And she's, you know, like when she talked to Sam, she was getting out all of her feelings about, you know, joining Cobra Kai and why she did it. And she doesn't hate Sam or Robby or any of the other characters. She just fundamentally feels like she doesn't belong, and that's why she rejoined Cobra Kai, because it fits her fighting style more, and she feels like she has more of a connection to like Kreese and stuff like that. So of course she's going to do that. And she feels like at the end of the day, if she can do this for herself and her family, then she feels like she's honoring her mother. And she can't do that under Miyagi though, because they won't prop her up over Sam or Robby or Miguel or any other character. One of the main things I really did not like was the fact that she wanted to have a break in the relationship between her and Robby, just so she can, do the tournament. Now I understand the thought process behind that. Obviously she wants to focus all of her energy on honoring her mother, and Robby is a distraction, but he ends up being a distraction anyway, even after they have the break and the whole conversation about that. Now at the end of the day, Robby's also distracted, and that's one of the things that irritated me. But Tory started to do the same thing, and it's like you're kind of, obviously it's a human thing. She wanted to focus, but she is still feeling bad about the fact that they had a little fight, and the fact that she has to do this break, and the fact that she has to rejoin Cobra Kai to do this to begin with. I'm sure all of that is going through her mind, and obviously she feels bad about it, but it's really irritating with the flip-flopping and everything like that. And I feel more so bad for Robby in this scenario, because he's trying his best to be there for Tory even after she betrayed them. Of course I'm gonna side with Robby there. I am glad that she sticks up to Zara though, because Zara is really just an idiot, and honestly is a lot weaker than I thought she would be. Now obviously she is on par with Tory to some extent, but Tory does wash her. I'm not gonna lie to you. She isn't as powerful as a lot of people thought she would be to begin with. And she probably could beat Sam or something like that, but I don't think she is really that strong of a character. Again, with the whole thing with Robby when he was drunk, and that's kind of uncomfortable for me. And her just trying to manipulate this situation as if she is a choice for Robby, she never was. Obviously he's trying to fix things with Tory, and her just butting in and trying to implement herself in the situation is just so uncomfortable. It's the same thing with the Axel situation with Miguel and Sam. Is just I hate when characters are just implemented into a show just to rival the actual love interest or something like that. It's just forced drama in general, and I just hate that. But I'm glad Tory does put her in her place, and she doesn't back down. She is not scared of her at all. I feel fundamentally we should have got more of a human side of Zara, something that we can actually relate to, or something that we can latch onto and say okay, this character is not maniacally cartoonishly evil. They have a fan base, they're very popular, they're very good at karate, they're in the Second Tech, so obviously they're broadcasting to a big audience, and they're very skilled at it, karate and stuff like that. They're a black belt. It's that type of characters where you are very egotistical because of the fame that you have and all this other stuff, but I feel you could use that in a way to make the character also sort of human, the point where they have to put up this front and sort of pretend they're greater than, they're larger than life, they're better than they actually are, and you get to see her kind of break down and crumble a little bit. For example, when her and Robby actually hooked up, or whatever you want to call it. I don't really know the scenario there. When they went into the room and they talked and stuff like that, or made out, whatever, you get to see her sort of I don't know, either break down or sort of have a conversation with Robby, explaining just how stressful it is to put up a pretty face for the camera and stuff like that. Or maybe he sort of sees the vulnerable side to her, once they actually start talking, he realizes how fake she is. But she starts to think about that when she actually gets rejected by Robby, and then she has to sort of rethink her life a little bit, and rethink her life choices in terms of having this sort of fake persona in front of the camera. And I know I'm just rambling a little bit, but I'm just saying you could do a lot more with Zara as a character rather than what they did. Honestly, when it comes to Chozen, I really don't have much to say about Chozen, other than I'm glad that he got over Kimiko, and the fact that he is moving on. And he was kind of screwed up, and he was drunk, and he was in a bad place in episode 6, but over the past couple episodes he started to sort of get sober and get over it a little bit. I don't really like his little fling with Kim. I don't really like how their relationship is progressing. It's kind of strained, because it's kind of out of nowhere, and it's kind of a very cartoonish romance. It's what a romantic show would kind of do, where they would just put two characters together just for the sake of putting two characters together, characters that don't really have much plot or reason for being there. or maybe the characters are just very weak or whatever, the audience, or maybe the audience just likes those two together, who knows. But with this pairing, I don't think anyone asked for it, and it kind of feels like they just put the two Asian characters together. I don't want to make it sound that way, but it's just kind of like they're the two characters that were trained by the same master, and they kind of just grew older. They're of different dojos, so he's of Miyagi-Do and she's of Cobra Kai, and it's kind of one of those things where they have differing ideals, but they also have similarities, and it's just like they don't really have a partner. They don't really have much going on, so they just let's just put these two together because we have nothing else to do with them. The one thing I really will say about Kim, though, I really like her conversation with Tory about just the meaning of life in general and what to do besides karate. Like the fact that Kim focused a lot of her life on karate in general, and the fact that she never really got a chance to have like a normal life. Her father, I think it was grandfather or something like that, he was abusive, and obviously Chris tried to defend her and stuff like that, and yada yada yada, but she's focused so much time on karate that she forgot to actually have a normal life, and find someone that she cares about and loves, and maybe build a family. And that's why she started to develop feelings for Chozen. I understand that, but I feel like she never really had like any of these like it wasn't really developed in the other seasons. Like for example, season 5 was when she was introduced, obviously, but we just never really had much for her even back then, so she felt kind of hollow ever since her introduction. And it's like now it just feels like they're only introducing this just to give her something, but even then it's not really like fully developed that much. Like even with Chozen, we don't really even get to see him in Kimco like have a conversation or anything like that, most likely because they couldn't get the actress back or whatever. But like it's just like it feels kind of hollow. It's just like, oh, let's put these two together. Like again, like I said before, not really invested in that at all. But I'm glad Chozen's in a better place. So, and I like Chozen as a character. I think he's a fan favorite, and I love him too. He's like top 10 in terms of my favorites. So yeah. I do like in the brawl fight, you actually get to see Robby, Tory, and Sam actually work together, and it's basically like a 3v3 against the Iron Dragons, I think it was. And I really do like that because it shows like even though these people are on the different teams and everything, Miyagi-Do, Cobra Kai, it doesn't really matter because these people still care about each other. And it shows that Tory, even though she is on Cobra Kai's side, it was not to spite any of the characters that she genuinely cares about, like Robby and Tory, and other characters. Even Amanda and Tory still have technically a relationship in a certain sense, to where like Amanda's acting as if like she acts like a mother figure to Tory, and at the end of the day that is very important to Tory because she basically just lost her mother. So that is still a very important relationship in her life, and all these relationships are at the end of the day. Now moving on to Hawk and Demetri, honestly I think these two are like the weakest characters of like the main cast, because at least with Sam, she doesn't have that much. She mainly has this stuff with Tory, but like she's not really the focus in terms of like female characters. But when it comes to like these two, Hawk and Demetri, I feel like these two are not only like not focused in the season, but they're the worst they've ever been. Like Hawk obviously is strong, but I feel like character wise there's not really much to him. Like even in season 5 he lost to Kenny. Like he when it comes to the Hawk, like is basically he changed colors like every 5 seconds. Like there just wasn't much going on with him. He lost to Kyler too, and technically Demetri had to defeat him. And with this season I feel like he's kind of nothing. Like really, he doesn't really do that much. Like obviously he has like the IT thing, and him and Demetri are beefing about that, but I feel like that's not really like much of anything. Like even with Miguel, he has other issues other than just Stanford. Like he can get in another school, and he understands that. Like, and he's not just bugging about specifically school. Like that is something that he's gonna worry about later on, but he's also worried about the tournament and Robby locking in and him trying to be captain. Miguel wanting to be captain, but understanding that Robby, can be as well. He has other stuff going on, even with the Carmen thing. The fact that him and Johnny, they went back to the valley so that they can check up on Carmen, because there was an emergency call, and they had to go back. So he basically was about to not even compete in the tournament. So Miguel, he overall has more going on. I also do really like that scene where Carmen is not sticking up for her, but like she is encouraging Miguel to go back after basically saying I'm fine, and the baby's fine, and it really shows that in the future, we're at the end of the series, in the last like 5 episodes, we're gonna see either the baby is gonna come and we're gonna see like the child actually be born, or at least in the future we know that the family is gonna be very happy and stuff like that, and Miguel is gonna have another brother, younger brother, and it's just cool seeing Johnny's development into instead of like a drunken loser, he actually becomes a father, and it's just like, it's really cool to see all that play out. But going back to Hawk and Demetri, I just feel like I obviously took Hawk's side in general when it comes to that whole debacle in part 1, but it doesn't really necessarily matter, because I don't really think these two should be fighting over something this stupid. Like, obviously they're gonna miss each other, and they don't want to, Demetri doesn't want to lose his friend, but I feel like he treated him like too much of an asshole. Like, he was being too much of an asshole this season to begin with, and that's why he even cheated on Yasmin, because this man literally was going through his own like Hawk arc, which I don't really defend him for, because even though he's flipping up his hair, he's trying to beat up Hawk and scolding him for going to another school, it's like I don't think it's really necessary to make Demetri go through this arc, because he learned from Hawk that being this type of person is not good for you. It's unhealthy, especially when you join Cobra Kai and stayed in it when Kreese was still in charge. Wouldn't Demetri as a character, I feel like Demetri wouldn't just become Hawk after all of that development and seeing him be that, especially when he was the one who defended and forgave Hawk after he broke his arm. Like that, I feel like this in the season 3 and like other seasons of Demetri aren't the same character. And honestly, when it comes to him cheating, I don't even understand why he would do it to begin with. Obviously, people make mistakes, yada yada yada. People are gonna say that, and honestly, I don't really care about excuses, because Demetri, he really was propped up as one of the more loyal, noble characters in terms of like just like having some sort of like humanity to them, and he actually was a good kid, one of the better kids, honestly, and that's why he didn't even want to join Cobra Kai to begin with in season 2, because he saw what Kreese was. He's an asshole, he has a dark side to him, and that's why he wanted to join Miyagi-Do. Now obviously he was very annoying, and he's still a annoying character, but I feel like he was more, he felt more like human back in like season 2 and 3 and stuff like that. Like, even though he was somewhat annoying with the jokes and everything, and he was trash at karate, I did somewhat feel for him. I felt bad for him, and it was cool that he actually got to at least get one kick on Hawk in like season 2, like something like that, and I didn't like fully hate him for that, because at least I understood that Hawk was technically in the wrong for instigating the whole school fight and like fighting a bunch of people and just hurting people for no reason. So I kind of was siding with him to some degree, even though I still like Hawk more as a character. But now in season 6, like I feel like he's just destroyed, and there's nothing I really have to look forward to when it comes to Demetri. I know, and honestly, I don't even care if he makes up with Yasmin in part 3. I don't care if he calls her and like apologizes or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. Like, nothing matters with Demetri at this point. Like, I feel like he was okay in 2 and 3, and then he just fell off. Like, it's done. It's generally done with Demetri, for me at least. But with Hawk, honestly, I don't know with Hawk, because at least Hawk didn't cheat, but Hawk is just not much of anything in this season. Like, he did fight that one dude who they called like Spanish Hawk or whatever, in the one I forget what the dojo is called, but like, he's doing stuff like that. He's still out there fighting. He's still strong at the end of the day. And he did make up with Demetri after the whole MIT thing. But I'm not really invested in that storyline to begin with. I just don't care. Kenny is another character I don't really have much to say about, only because, you know, I think his character arc is pretty solid, and I like that they're taking it in a, you know, really good direction with making him, you know, somewhat understandable with the fact that he obviously, you know, shat himself in the woods, and people made fun of him for that. They recorded it, which I actually don't remember seeing in part one. I just saw people just laughing at him and stuff like that, but obviously it kind of mirrors like season 4, how he was bullied and, you know, people made fun of him and stuff like that. So I like how strong he is as a character, to where like he let like all that stuff happen to him, but he didn't let it like take him over. He didn't become like the Cobra Kai version of himself that he was in 4 and 5. He stayed true to who he is as a person, and what Sean was, you know, talking about, where he, you know, this whole strike first, strike hard, no mercy crap is a bunch of bullshit, honestly. And Sean knew that, and he was trying to tell his brother that. And honestly, I really like their relationship as well. And I honestly wish we could see Sean again, because I really liked him as a character. But seeing Kenny, you know, just grow up and just understand that, you know, Silver's mindset was wrong, and the fact that Silver came back and he had that moment with him, it really was cool how he just basically gave him the middle finger and said, you know, fuck you, like, I don't care about, you know, what you got to say, and I'm just gonna do me and do my thing. And honestly, I really like that. I'm glad that he made up with Devin, but at the same time, I don't really like Devin in this season, because I feel like she was forgiven too quickly. It kind of reminds me of Demetri forgiving Hawk so quickly. It's like, but I feel like with that, those two were best friends already. With Kenny, he basically says, oh, I actually like you secretly, and, you know, I guess, you know, I'm glad that you saw me as a threat. It's kind of like, it just feels so rushed. Like, that's kind of ridiculous to me, honestly. I feel like it's a different circumstance, and with that relationship, I feel like it should be developed more. I do like that they were fighting alongside each other in the brawl fight as well, showing that they do have somewhat of a connection, and that's going to be developed in part 3 as well. But I think that's just rushed overall. I also do like that Kenny was able to make up for with Anthony after, you know, all the bullying that he experienced in season 4, showing that again he's developing as a character, he's growing, he's showing that he's not going to just have grudges for the rest of his life. And at the end of the day, I'm glad that Anthony, you know, he actually took the laxatives, which is kind of crazy, and honestly that was kind of unnecessary, but I'm glad that he actually took that extra mile to, you know, show that he actually wants to make amends and stuff like that. So it shows that Anthony, even though he was an asshole in season 4 and I think a little bit of 5, he has grown as a person, and he's trying to be better. He wants to make things right. And I honestly think these two could be like really great friends, like genuinely best friends. And I'm glad that, you know, they ended up becoming that. It kind of reminds me of all the other rivalries that have ended, you know, Tory and Sam, Miguel and Robby. I just love that even though all these rivalries exist, they end eventually, and you get to see these characters grow up and develop as people. I also really like that Amanda was the catalyst for those two, actually, you know, Kenny and Anthony making up. And honestly, she's one of the best characters in the whole series, and I'm glad that she's still getting to, you know, moments to a show, just, you know, her being like that motherly figure who wants to keep people together. And she generally is like she's the heart of the show, honestly. Like she's one of the better characters in the series, and I would also say she's like a S tier character. Honestly, when it comes to Johnny and Daniel, I really don't like how they just keep bickering, you know, honestly, like as if nothing has changed, and, you know, all these characters are supposed to be developing. But, and I'm pretty sure in season 5 they did sort of like make up, and they were actually like on the right track in terms of like becoming friends, or at least like not hating each other anymore. But I feel like all of that was just thrown out the window, and they just started like hating each other again. Like Johnny was literally going through an arc where he was basically in Daniel's shoes, and Daniel was in Johnny's shoes, when his life basically fell apart because Amanda, you know, needed space, and she ended up having an argument, and she moved. Well, she took the kids with her and stuff like that, like in season 5 because of Silver. It's just like I would have liked to see, you know, Johnny in sort of like the using more Miyagi-Do strategies in terms like mentality wise rather than just fighting. Like, and I did like that he actually did do that a little bit in this season, but I feel like Daniel, he always kind of just takes the emotional route, even when he's supposed to be balanced. He doesn't really follow that, and that's the irritating part with Daniel, is he's kind of a hypocrite, honestly. Like, Daniel is so hell-bent on believing that Miyagi is this perfect angel who's never done anything wrong in his entire life, that he's willing to just ignore, logical consistency. Like, when it comes to tournaments, for example, he questioned why Miyagi didn't want him to participate in tournaments. Now that he sees why, he's almost like, shaming Miyagi mentally, thinking like, oh, how could you keep this from me? How could you, be this type of person? But it's like, people like Daniel himself has abandoned Robby, sent him to prison, or well, juvie or whatever. Like, he's done so many heinous things where it's like, how can you sit up here and say that you've never done anything wrong, but then with Miyagi, just because he kept a couple secrets which he's ashamed of, obviously, and he didn't want to put that on you since you were a hothead yourself, and it was dangerous in general to teach you karate because of how you are. So it's just like, it's so strange to me that Daniel acts as if like he's this perfect angel, and then when Miyagi does something, he needs to also be that, like this paragon of like virtue or something like that. But Daniel's not even that, so why does he want that from Miyagi? Honestly, I will go into this whole conversation a little bit deeper in a Daniel LaRusso video. Now that video is going to be very long as well, just like this one, and I'm going to be diving into everything, just revolving around Daniel throughout the entire series. But let's just get into, I'll get into that later. But when it comes to Johnny, honestly, I feel like Johnny is pretty solid overall. I think I really like his conversations with Kreese, and him basically just standing up to Kreese, not taking his bullshit, like when it comes to him waving around his knife, and Johnny matches his energy. He's not letting Kreese one up him or anything. And I do like how Johnny is, he actually did call Miguel his son in this season, showing that he, even though he was somewhat ignoring him in the early episodes of part 2, he does care about Miguel on the same level as Robby. And that was something that was debated in season 4, like, does he actually care about Robby more? Maybe he misses Robby to the point where like he ignores Miguel a little bit, and he it's just kind of clouding his judgment. But in this season, it's confirmed like that they're both equal to him. And honestly, I kind of already believe that, but I'm glad that Miguel has that confirmation as a character. And it's just those two's like relationship is like really the strongest part of the whole show. Like, that's what created the show. It's just like those two training, Johnny becoming stronger as a person, as a character, and Miguel also becoming stronger, physically, mentally, gaining things like a girlfriend, friends that he can rely on, and becoming one of the greatest fighters in the valley. And when it comes to Johnny, like I said before, learning more Miyagi-Do ways of life, and the characteristics of being balanced and stuff like that, I really do like that he used that in order to help the students become stronger and actually focus and lock in more, because then after he actually had a conversation with them, and I think in episode 7, when Daniel was obviously captured because of Silver, they ended up doing a lot better in the tournament, and that helped them overall, and just winning against Cobra Kai. And obviously that with help with Robby, and Miguel talking to Robby about being captain and everything. Like, they genuinely are a good team, and it really shows that they are trying to lift each other up and stuff like that. I just overall really love how Johnny has changed as a character and has developed and has grown stronger as a person ever since episode 1, where he was basically at rock bottom, and you get to see him now, and it's night and day, honestly. And that's for most of the characters. Honestly, when it comes to Silver, there's not really much I have to say about Terry Silver, because I do really like Silver as a character. I liked him in season 4 and 5, especially 5. I really liked him in Karate Kid 3 because he really has this like energetic, crazy sort of like mentality. He is kind of wacko, you could tell. And I really like how the actor portrays him. Very different from Kreese too. Like, Kreese is more level-headed and more like calculating. in terms of like his strategy about like manipulating people. He does it in silence more so. With Terry, he's more like loud and like in your face and stuff like that, which I like. It's the contrast, which I really like. And overall, I just feel like I really don't like what they have done with him in the season, because he's just kind of there, and you know, I feel like he's just there for the sake of having Terry Silver in the last season, when the whole, it's very flimsy with Kreese and Terry just getting out of jail or getting scot-free when it comes to like the law and stuff like that. Like nothing really happens to them legally. Kreese broke out of jail, you know, nothing's happening with that, and he's in a completely different like area. You know, it's just like when it comes to Terry also just, you know, flew all the way to Barcelona, and he basically just gets away with everything he did, because the charges weren't even like they didn't stick, because they're freaking like, what was it, Stingray or something like that, and Bert, I think it was. And it's like stuff like that I really hate. Like, it's just off-screen bullcrap, and honestly, I feel like if it was just written by someone else, they would have just used a logical route and just let him stay in jail, and just, you know, that would be the end of it. Because honestly, it makes no logical sense how he would just get out. Like, yeah, obviously if he had a good lawyer, Bert being a witness, or like, you know, Stingray or something like that, it wouldn't be the best, honestly, because those two are just idiots, honestly, and it wouldn't be, you know, really that all that reliable. But I feel like they could use other people like Tory, or they could use like the footage from season 5 to really show that he actually was doing some like he was cheating during the tournament and stuff like that, and he's not fit to be a sensei. But I don't know, like I feel like that's so lazy, and it's just, I already know why they did it, why they had him in the season. It's irritating, because he's a good character and all, and the other like pieces of media that he's been in, or not media, but like in the other like seasons and stuff like that, in the film. But they just wanted to have him here for the sake of it. I also think his connection to Wolf is very forced, and it's like, you know, the only reason that exists is so that he can combat Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, and also because like basically his life is over, basically, like he doesn't really have much to look forward to, and he barely has any money like left. He only has overseas money mainly, from what they established, and he used that to you know, take over the Iron Dragons in the background, essentially, while Wolf is basically at the forefront. And it's just like, again, it's very uninteresting, because there's so many other characters I really care about. If Kreese was the main villain, and you know, he was the only one we were focused on, honestly, it would work, and I wouldn't really miss Silver, because Silver, he played his part, he had his time, and he's just overstaying his welcome at this point. Honestly, when it comes to Kwon, I really am sad that Kwon had to go, and he basically was the sacrifice for, you know, Cobra Kai to really see, and mainly Kreese, to see just how bad his form of karate is. Because at the end of the day, I feel like that's the main reason that he had to die to begin with. Is, you know, he basically is the catalyst to show just how bad, you know, the strike first, strike hard, no mercy bullshit is. And I really just hate how Kreese has used that in order to manipulate so many kids, like Robby, Miguel, and, you know, Hawk and stuff like that, and Tory. And Tory right now is still in Cobra Kai because of him, because of the connection that they have. It's just, that really irritates me, honestly. Now, honestly, I'm going to make a video about Kwon in general, just, you know, sort of defending him, because some people are saying, like, obviously, he did lose to Kwon, or he did lose to Robby. My god, he lost to himself, yeah. Actually, he did lose to himself, technically. So, yeah, he lost to Kwon, he lost to Robby, and he lost to Axel. And, you know, people are saying that he got his ass whooped, he's weak, he was supposed to be invincible because of part 1 and how they set him up. And I have to defend him a little bit, because honestly, I think that he is a really good character. He's one of the best characters in the series, honestly. Yeah, in the series in general. I'm not even just talking about this season, because I have to go over it in another video, just going in depth with his character. But I like what Kwon represents, and he represents the perfect Cobra Kai student, and his death basically explains just like it's symbolic. It's like showing the death of Cobra Kai, like in the teachings of Kreese, you know, and just again with the strike first, strike hard, like all that crap. I love what he represents. Okay, so that's basically it for this video. Comment, subscribe, like, and I know this has been a long video, but I also wanted to say that, you know, thank you for 200 subscribers. It's been a long road. You know, I've been on YouTube for a long time, many years, and I've had multiple channels, you know, where I basically just did different sort of like short films. You know, I did some like stop motion in the past when I was like way younger. I did some gaming. I actually do have a gaming channel, but I don't really upload on that very much anymore. But I don't know, maybe in the future if I really get into it, I'll go back to that. I'll go back to it at some point, maybe, possibly. But for now, I just wanted to say thank you for, you know, getting 200 subs on this channel. You know, thank you for everyone for just watching my videos in general, and just, you know, comment, subscribing, liking. Now obviously I say it as like a joke and a little thing, you know, with my intro and everything, comment, subscribe, like, but I really just, I love that you guys, you know, tune in every single day, or, you know, every other day or whatever, you know, every so often to just, you know, come and watch my videos. And you know, I just ramble. I just like yapping. I'm just a yapper, honestly. It's just, that's the point of this channel, is just yapping about a bunch of movies and TV shows that I love. And you know, I love that I can do this for y'all, and you know, just have this moment to just, you know, talk about the stuff that I like. So thank y'all for just showing so much support. I love Cobra Kai. I'm always gonna love Cobra Kai. When the show ends, I'm still gonna rewatch it and just watch all the fights, you know, look at the choreography and give it praise, honestly. And I'm sure many others will do the same. So I'm just glad that the shows exist. I'm glad that so many people have found my channel because of it, and I'm so glad for just having this channel, having people support me. So thank all of y'all, truly. So that's gonna be the end of this video. Comment, subscribe, like, and I will see you guys later. Peace.
Red Hot Gotsy, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe.